what will the biggest story in 2024 in college football be? And one of you came at me and said, Notre Dame's going to win the national title this year. That would be noteworthy because their last title was 1988. That would make Marcus Freeman an instant legend. I don't know how old you have to have your own statue in South Bend, but we would test the limits, I'll tell you that, if Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame won a national title. But I hear you. You don't have to yell at your phone or your TV or whatever device you're watching the show on. I hear you guys. You're all yelling the same thing. They're not going to win the national title. Well, let's just ask ourselves how possible it is. They have 3 top 10 classes out of the last 4 cycles. So they have the kind of talent on campus that it takes to at least make a run. They picked up Riley Leonard in the quarterback market from Duke. So they got veteran talent and presence at the quarterback spot. They got a new offensive staff. Last year it held them back. They went and said, LSU looked pretty good. Let's take their coordinator, Mike Denbrock. Boom, South Bend. I don't know how much he'll revitalize things overnight, but they're making a lot of the necessary moves. Now, here's where I draw the line. I would not be necessarily betting Notre Dame to win the national title this year. They'll be in the hunt, okay? And this is where I think a lot of people that, as we approach the 12-team playoff era, a lot of people are going to have a problem with this. You're going to think to yourself, well, you know, make the playoff, win the title. Oh, it's almost the same thing. It's not, guys. 11 teams are going to make the playoff and not win the title. And that's without the casuals having their way and taking us to like 16 teams. Notre Dame. There are 2 schools of thought out there. You could say, well, with a 12-team playoff, they'll have a better shot. No, they won't. They won't have a better shot of winning a title. They'll have a worse shot at winning a title. They'll have a better shot at making the playoff. I don't doubt Notre Dame's going to be a prime playoff contender every year. I don't doubt that whatsoever. Got a strong top 10 to 12 talent roster. Got really good coaching. Just upgraded the offensive coordinator position. Sure. Got Riley Leonard at quarterback. Absolutely. They'll be a playoff contender. But that's not what the guy said. The guy told me they're going to win the national championship. You know what that means? That means you got to line up across from Georgia or Texas or Alabama or Oregon. Maybe 2 of them. Possibly 3 of them. It's impossible for Notre Dame to get a first-round bye, by the way, in the current college football playoff setup, because they're not in a conference. So they can't win a conference. So they can't have a first-round bye. Can you beat 2 or 3 of those teams? In the past, you hadn't been able to beat 1. Can you beat 2 or 3 of those teams? That's really hard to do. I don't care who you are. It's hard for Georgia to do. It'll be hard for Texas to do. They're going to have a better roster than you. As it sits right now, they'll have an edge over you. And what we've seen is we've seen teams able to get there. We saw TCU get to the title game. They got splattered once they got there. We saw Washington get to the title game. Got physically handled pretty good once they got there. Well, now you'll get there, and instead of maybe 1 or 2 things going your way and you win it, you got to have 3 or 4 things go your way and you win it. I mean, you play on this schedule 1 team with better preseason title odds than you. And I'm going to say that again. And if you tuned out, Notre Dame's got a schedule this year that's going to put them in the playoff. I mean, I highly suspect Notre Dame to be a playoff team this year. They play 1 team that has better preseason odds than them, and that's Florida State, and they get them at home on November 9th. They got to bye before that. That's no guarantee, but it sets up pretty darn well for them. Once you get there, you got to play everybody capable of beating you. Everyone had good odds at that point. So we'll see. It'd be a huge story. I don't disagree with that. It would be a huge story.